Dr. Neal, can you please give us a short summary of what's the most important findings from this study?
Yeah, so today we presented the final overall survival results of the CONTACT-01 study, which was meant to test the difference between the combination of atezolizumab, an anti-PD-L1 drug, and cabozantinib, a pill TKI against VEGF, versus docetaxel. And this was in patients with immunotherapy and prior platinum-based chemotherapy who had progressed on both of those. So this, unlike many of the first-line immunotherapy trials, this was saying, what do we do in that next-line setting, in the second-line setting, or sometimes third-line setting for patients who have gone through all the FDA-approved therapies and other approved therapies in other countries. So the top-line result was the study didn't meet its primary endpoint. The median overall survival was around 10.5 months in both groups, and the overall survival curves look very similar. Slight differences in progression-free survival, but not clinically meaningful, only about half a month, and low response rates, 12-13% in both of the arms.
So what's your general thoughts about not meeting the primary endpoint of OS in this study?
Well, when a study doesn't meet the primary endpoint of overall survival, then we look at subgroups. We do forest plots and say, were there particular subgroups where we could find benefits? And we did see lack of benefit in women as compared to men, generally more benefit in patients with squamous non-small cell lung cancer that were included. About a third of the patients had squamous non-small cell lung cancer. And then more benefit in the patients with a current or former smoking history. So that suggests that maybe these VEGF TKIs, these drugs that inhibit the vascular endothelial growth factor, anti-angiogenic drugs, may have a preferential effect. And I thought it was really interesting that a similar trend was seen in the lung map study, which was the S1800A study presented back by Karen Reckamp in ASCO of last year and now published, leading to a phase 3 study. So I think we're seeing that addition of anti-angiogenic therapy for patients that haven't had that in the first-line setting, in the squamous subgroup, there's something interesting there.
How will you use the findings from this study in your work going forward now?
So, we're still trying to find a role for these small molecule pills, these VEGF inhibitor drugs, in non-small cell lung cancer. They're, the combination of cabozantinib and atezolizumab is used in renal cell cancer. Cabozantinib's in hepatocellular cancer. Those drugs are effective together in hepatocellular cancer and maybe in other cancers also. But I think the really interesting thing will be, do we see trends from other VEGF TKIs? There's 2 other important studies that are supposed to read out, hopefully within the next year or so. The SAPPHIRE study, which is looking at sitravatinib plus nivolumab, and then the LEAP-8 study looking at lenvatinib plus pembrolizumab. Very similar drugs, very similar design to this study. So if any one of those is positive, that could lead to a new drug approval. Otherwise, we don't really have this class of molecules. We haven't figured out how to use it in lung cancer yet.